Hello and welcome to Did You Know Gaming Extra. In today's episode, we're looking at unreleased gaming hardware. When designing new hardware, a company has a lot to consider. Costs can ramp up dramatically throughout production, and some ideas may become impossible to implement. Some companies may aim to create one thing only to make something else entirely. With Nintendo, one of their most poorly received consoles was initially planned as something different. As a teenager, British technology pioneer Jeremy Jez San OBE founded Argonaut Software, a company known for not only creating classic games like Croc, but also for helping to develop the Super FX chip with Nintendo, resulting in the creation of Star Fox. In September of 2018, Jez spoke with news outlet Metro about how his company continued to work with Nintendo after the creation of the Super FX chip. He was tasked with working on the design of a VR-centric games console called the Supervisor. Speaking about the cancellation of the Supervisor, Jez told Metro, "I worked on a VR machine called the Supervisor for Nintendo, but unfortunately, we fell out. A guy called Mr. Gunpei Yokoi cancelled our project in favor of the Virtual Boy, which we used to call the Virtual Dog because it was so bad." Jez believed that Argonaut's VR headset was more powerful than the Virtual Boy, as it included both full color as well as head tracking in a time when no other device did. Jez claims that it was like the Vive headset that's on sale today, but made 20 years earlier. Though he admits that, of course, modern screen technology is vastly superior to what was available back then. Jez believes that the Supervisor was killed off due to a climate of fear surrounding the gaming industry, as Nintendo had already been sued for issues such as repetitive strain injury or epilepsy triggers. He believes that the restrictive nature of VR, limiting a player's view, was likely to cause a number of lawsuits against the game's giant. After the system was dropped by Nintendo, Jez was approached by Hasbro, a company known for the creation of many popular toys. They intended to create their own virtual reality console under the codename Sliced Bread Project, also known as Toaster VR, and worked with Jez in order to optimize an ARM core processor to better handle VR. Throughout its development history, multiple names were picked for the system, including Escape and Rush. The project was plagued by the technical issues expected with the leap into the unexplored realms of VR gaming. It also had to be lightweight and cheap to make, only adding to the difficulties involved in the project. The main hurdles were creating an image which showed a realistic perspective to the user, as well as the latency between the user's head movements and the display. A prototype was assembled and developers began planning potential games, including large companies such as EA. According to one developer who worked on the system, by the summer of 1995, 5 games were demonstrated on the complete system of hardware and software, and tested by the 16-year-old son of one of the group leaders. The major contributing factor to the system's downfall came after a switch from cartridges to CD-ROMs, both delaying the system as well as doubling the company's estimated retail price. The previously mentioned developer also claimed that Hasbro's business plan anticipated sales reaching 2 million units in 5 years, and only achieving a 12% profit by year 4. The company had already spent $45 million during the system's 3 years of development, and they were expecting to spend another $22 million on advertising. The decision to stop the project entirely was made by former Hasbro CEO Alan Hassenfeld. The company would create their own third-party game studio in Hasbro Entertainment towards the end of 1995, creating adaptations of their popular board games, as this was a much safer way of entering a market they had little experience in. But as the Toaster VR system was scrapped, so too were the games being developed for it. And now it's time for this episode's random piece of trivia. Today we're looking at Faceball 2000 for the Game Boy. This game is actually a port of an earlier released first-person maze game for the Atari ST, called MIDI Maze. The original game was capable of multiplayer network play, doing so through the Atari ST's MIDI ports. By linking computers together via a cable from one system's MIDI output to another's MIDI in, it was possible to play multiplayer sessions. It's possible to chain a total of 16 Atari STs at once. This feature was actually retained in the Game Boy release, making use of the Game Boy Link cable. By connecting multiple 4-player adapter cables to one another, with each additional adapter adding 2 more players, it was possible to use a total of 7 adapters in a chain to achieve a 16-player game. This makes Faceball 2000 a Guinness World Record holder for most players on a single Game Boy multiplayer session. And if you want more facts about Nintendo, you should click the link in the corner to watch our video on Nintendo lawsuits. Also, as another little friendly reminder, we're making a book based on our other show, Region Locked. So if you like regional exclusive games, be sure to take a look at that as well in the description below. And a huge shout out to our Patreon supporters. They contribute to the show each month, and their support is very much appreciated. If you're interested in helping out, why not take a look at our Patreon page in the description below.